Thank you, Sean. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Milton Select Board meeting of Tuesday, May 3rd, 2022. This meeting is conducted pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state emergency. This act, signed by Governor Baker on June 16, 2021, includes an extension of the remote meeting provisions. Accordingly, we will introduce all of the members of the Select Board present and other participants, and all votes will be taken by roll. I'm Martha Doyle, Chair of the Select Board, and I would like to introduce the other members. I have them introduce themselves. So why don't we go alphabetically? Erin?
Oh, sorry, Mr. Chair. Erin Bradley, board member.
Hi, Roxanne Musto, board member.
And we have with us the interim town administrator.
Anne Marie Fagan, town administrator.
Lynn?
Lynn DiNapoli, executive administrative assistant to the select board.
Karen?
I'm Karen Burwell, finance director, town accountant.
And thank you all for being with us.
And Arthur, I'm here too, Mike Zulis, vice chair, and I'll be jumping onto my laptop in the next minute or two.
That's great. Thank you, Mike. At this time, could all the members present join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? John will put up the flag on the screen, as was done last week. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. At this time, we would like to open the floor to public comment. Do we have anyone for public comment? I do not see anyone at this time. Lynn, do you see anyone?
No, I don't, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thank you. Giving Mike an opportunity to settle in, why don't we, if it is agreeable to the other members of the board, move to agenda item number 8. We have a few approvals to make that are fairly straightforward. And then once he returns, we can go back to the beginning of the agenda. So item number 8 is discussion approval Hackney carriage license for 2022 this year. Short transit doing business as Milton Cab, Frederick Rossa, UVA Parkway Cab Company. Anne Marie, any comments?
Mr. Chairman, these cabs are renewal cab licenses. These happen once a year. These cabs are inspected by the police department and the inspectional service department, seal of weights and measures to make sure that their cabs are intact. Once we get that report back, then we will reissue the renewals. The renewals are $100 per year for the taxi license.
Thank you, Ms. Fagan. I will entertain a motion.
Chair, I moved to accept. Let me read that properly. I move to approve the Hackney license for 2022 short transit DBA Milton Cab and Frederick Rossa DBA Parkway Cab Inc.
Is there a second, please?
Second.
Thank you. Ms. Musto, any comment or discussion? All in favor, I will do the roll. Ms. Bradley?
Yes.
Ms. Musto?
Yes.
Myself, Mr. Doyle, yes. Mr. Zulis is on. Did you want to vote? Okay,
Yes.
so
Yes.
thank you, Mike. Did we buy you enough time, Mr. Zulis?
Yeah, just about. I'm gonna just jump on my laptop, switch from the phone to the laptop. So if you give me 30 seconds, we'll be back in action.
Anytime we have 4 votes in the affirmative for agenda item number 8. And Mr. Wells is joining us. Richard, good evening, welcome.
Mr. Chair, I apologize. It's 7 o'clock on the brain. I'm sitting here staring at my clock. Forgetting we were starting early tonight.
Great to have you here.
We're gonna be done by 7:15, Mr. Zulus?
Actually, we moved to adjourn just before you came
Oh,
on.
awesome. See you later. Good night. Goodbye. A second. We could only get so lucky.
Mike is just about ready to go.
Hi, Karen.
Hi, Richard. How are you?
Happy to see you.
And it's nice to see you as well. All of you, welcome.
Thank you.
Karen, I still need to set a date with you for us to catch up. You're one of the only department heads I haven't met with yet, so I'll do that in the next week or so.
I'm looking forward to that meeting.
Me too, Karen. Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
It looks like we're
Maybe you can talk
temporarily-
some sense into her, Aaron.
I'm gonna try, Richard. Don't you worry.
I already tried.
Hey,
You know me,
Mike's back.
Karen.
Great, thank you.
What do you want?
We are now ready to move to item number 4, which is a public discussion of the American Rescue Plan Act, or ARPA, potential uses for federal funds. Mike, can we turn it to you, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I appreciate the accommodation. I had an unexpected drop off, so I appreciate the accommodation. The American Rescue Plan Act was initially appropriated, or funds were appropriated to Milton last summer. And the guidelines were laid out last spring and summer for both funds that came directly to Milton and funds that are to come to Milton through the county. Approximately $2.8 million were appropriated directly to Milton from the U.S. Treasury, and $5.5 million were directed to come approximately through Norfolk County. Under the guidelines of the American Rescue Plan Act, the appropriating authority for these funds is the executive authority of the town, which is the select board. Last summer, this board committed to a public process for appropriating those funds, a process by which the finance committee of the select board in its public meetings would review potential projects, discuss them with department heads, discuss them with proponents, discuss them with citizens, and make recommendations for the select board. And the select board would then, in its public meetings, have discussions of potential projects and vote on them. We also committed to periodically having public hearings where we could solicit, in addition to soliciting comments in our finance committee and in select board meetings, pardon me, soliciting comments from residents at public hearings such as we're having tonight, and report on what we're doing, and then also get comments from residents on what they think we should consider for ARPA funding. We also last summer talked about and have made reports at town meeting. We did that in the, I think it was October, November now. I think it was October, the October town meeting, and at the warrant committee. We discussed in the warrant committee meetings over the last couple of months how we would propose to use ARPA fundings, particularly with respect to school needs and other departments as well. And so we had our first public meeting on this last August 17th. In which we solicited some comments from residents and some suggestions on how to use the funding. We then had another public meeting on November 3rd to do the same thing, to report on what we had looked at and to solicit comments from residents. And we'd hoped to have one a little earlier than this. We hoped to have one in March and April, but with the budget and with the warrant committee meetings and with other meetings, we were unable to schedule it until now. And so here we are. Arthur, if you wish, I can put up just what we've done in the other meetings, which is to outline what the funds can be used for, and then we can walk through what the select board has appropriated thus far, if that makes sense.
That'd be very helpful. Thank you. And I want to acknowledge your role as chair of the Select Board Finance Committee in managing this particular project, and the role of Karen Pavel, without whom it would not have been possible. She was the indispensable and remains the indispensable person.
So Lynn, if you could share that first, I think it's the first document, the basically the notice for this discussion. No, actually the other one, the notice which it's the other document I sent you today, which the notice for today's discussion, because that sets out the areas in which the funds can be used.
Okay, I have to find that one. Give me 1 minute.
Okay,
Sorry.
it's all right. If you want to, we can go ahead and I can talk about the other one if you want to wait a minute, and we can do that. We can talk about the other one first if you can't find the first document.
You're muted.
I have that one. Just gotta find it. Give me 1 minute. You
Okay.
can ask me.
All right. So I'll try to fill here, and I'll fill with the fact that thus far of the treasury funds, of the department, the treasury funds directly to the town of Milton, the select board has appropriated approximately 2.4 of close to 2.5 of the $2.9 million funds, which leaves a balance of about $430,000. And of the Norfolk County funds, well, actually that's okay. All right, that's fine. So of the treasury fund, of the Norfolk County funds, after the administrative costs that are payable to the counties, to the county, we have approximately 5.35 million, of which approximately 3.6 has been allocated, which leaves a balance of about 1.5 million. So we have just under $2 million that has not been as yet appropriated, and that's appropriated, not spent, but appropriated by the select board. So why don't I just go through and lay out, Lynn, that's okay. We can skip that document. I'll just go through and lay out very briefly what the funds can be used for.
Mr.
Five
Solicitor,
major areas. If that makes sense. Arthur.
That a document was attached to an email from Mike this afternoon, in case it's helpful to find. And Mike, would it be possible for you to just dichotomize a little bit between the ways in which the Department of Treasury funds and directly assigned to the town of Milton and the Norfolk County indirect funding from the federal government work?
So it's a difference and thank you, Arthur. It's a difference in process. That the funds that come directly to the town can be appropriated by the select board directly, and as long as they fit within the categories, then those fundings can proceed. It's a much quicker process for allocating the funds direct to the town. For the Norfolk County funds, the process is a little bit more elaborate. We have to, once the select board decides to appropriate funds, we have to submit an application to Norfolk County, and Norfolk County has to review those funds. And so there's a little bit more paperwork, a little bit more bureaucracy that goes, there you go, that's it. A little bit more bureaucracy and a little bit more of a delay for the funding through the county because they have to vet the projects for their purposes as well. So Lynn, if you could scroll down just a little bit, we'll see the 5 bullet points for what the ARPA funds can be used for. The first is, broadly speaking, to support public health expenditures. The second is to address the negative impacts caused by COVID to both residents, businesses, and town government. The third is to replace public sector revenue, and this is revenue that would have otherwise come into town government and did not. Fourth is premium pay for essential workers. And fifth is investments in water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure. Those are, broadly speaking, the 5 major categories for which those fundings can be used. And now, Arthur, if it makes sense, maybe we could publish the table 10, which Lynn, you had up initially, and then we can give a summary of what's been appropriated thus far. Great. So if you could scroll down a little bit, Lynn, the first is the first table outlines the grant amounts and the appropriated amounts and the available balances as that I just mentioned. And then if you could scroll, oh, we lost it.
Sorry.
That's
I'm
okay.
usually better at this. I don't know what's happening to me today.
No, look, if I tried it, Lynn, we would be somewhere that we can't even imagine. So if there's a way to scroll down in this document just a little bit, Lynn, we can see some of the approved projects.
Try the column to the left, Lynn, and see if that is better.
Yeah, right on the edge of the document there. No, you want to go to the edge of the document. You want to go in, other side.
No, Lynn,
There you go.
right there.
Now you should be able to scroll down. There you go. All right. So the first are the DPW.
Just Mike, sorry to interrupt, Lynn.
Yeah.
Can you increase the size for people to see it better in case they don't have the hard copy with them?
Go to the plus sign, Lynn.
Hold on. That better?
A little bit. Try it again. One more time.
Might lose it.
I don't want to lose it. That's what I'm afraid of. I don't want to lose
I
it.
guess that's the best we can do. Thank you.
So the first category listed here are the DPW projects that have been approved. The main one, primary one being the water main improvement project that was the first one, and that was allocated through the county. Second broad category is the Board of Health, which Roxanne, I think, is probably well aware of because those were requests that came in through the Board of Health and needs that we were able to meet for their efforts. Third broad category of the schools, which includes some projects that came in through the year, and then some additional amounts. The large amount, which is in the budget for next year, meeting some needs that have arisen for the students as a result of COVID-19. Next broad category is the fire department. We had portable radios, which were approved through the county. After that, we had a mental health clinician that was approved, that was appropriated for the police department. And then Lynn, if you could scroll down just a little bit. We had Parks Department, the major one there being the Lower Guile Field renovation. The next one is the small business grant application. We've had during our finance committee meetings, a lot of small businesses come in, and several small businesses come in and talk about their needs. And so the board appropriated up to $500,000. We have, I think, 2 applications that have been made. We're hoping for more. The businesses can receive grants of up to $50,000 for COVID-19 needs. There were a couple of small items in the accounting office that is helping us manage the ARPA allocations. We had some requests from the Milton Housing Authority to make some improvements there that have been years, have been waiting for years. And then we had some capital needs directly for the town, including the broadband appropriation that was discussed in the town meeting last November. The chiller plant for HVAC for town hall, and then HVAC for the library as well. So those are the projects that have been approved thus far. And then at this point, I will say that at this point, the next step for the finance committee is to review an additional DPW project, and then the applications for the small business grants. That's next on the finance committee's agenda. And so, Arthur, I probably went on too long, but that's where we are in terms of ARPA. You can fill in anything I may have missed. And
very thorough. Thank you, Mr. Silvers. Ms. Fagan, would you want to share with everyone the information from Norfolk County that came in late today? Mike, you may not have had a chance to see that email yet.
Mm-hmm.
This goes back to the fact that applications that are submitted for federal funding through Norfolk County have to be vetted through them according to their criteria, go through the review process, and then the decision of the county is communicated to the community. And today we received such a communication. If you don't have it, Anne Marie, I'd be happy to.
Mr. Chairman, I do have it. We were notified today that the Norfolk County Commissioners will be taking up at their meeting tomorrow the approval of $146,215 for the SOAR investigation study project in the town of Milton.
Thank you. And they will do that at 1:10 tomorrow via Zoom.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Anybody who wishes to participate is more than welcome to join in. Thank you. And maybe we should invite Karen to say a little bit about the accounting process, because this is very important as well. Karen, if you would, and the time frame within which the monies have to be expended. I would just note that if there is a surplus in the county at the end of expenditure time, that will be repooled, and the communities will have an opportunity to either apply for that or it will be redistributed according to population, most likely an application process. Karen?
As an update, thank you, Mr. Chair. As an update for ARPA, in terms of the accounting, we have to report to the federal government once a year, and it's in April, on April 30th. So the first report to the Treasury Department is pretty simple. We don't have to itemize anything. It was just a list of what we've spent to date, and it's submitted. And so our first submittal has been done. That will happen again April 30th of 2023. The process in terms of how the projects are approved, it goes through a chain of different companies. So when we submit the project through Norfolk County's website, that gets approved by Clifton Lawson Allen. That's they are the first reviewers of all of the projects. The Treasury Office changed a lot of the categories of how the projects have to be submitted. And so between the interim rule and the final rule, some of the projects that we submitted, this is probably a month ago, were pending or had been rejected by Norfolk County due to the fact that the Treasury Office has changed the categories. And so the CLA has been reviewing them and then contacting me through email, letting me know that this is a new category based off of the final rule that you need to use. So if a project gets rejected by Norfolk County based off of being under the wrong category, we have to resubmit it. After it's been approved by CLA, Powers and Sullivan does a second review. And when you're on the website, Anne-Marie and I both have access. We can see within the process of where the review is. The second review is done by Powers and Sullivan. Once they've reviewed it, it then goes to Norfolk County for the third review and approval. So if it's gone through phase 1 and 2 approval, it's most likely that the projects will be approved. The turnaround time is approximately a week, but it really depends on making sure that the categories are correct. And at the last select board finance committee meeting, I requested and asked for the select board to approve an allocation of up to $2,000, which would be used for the town of Milton to have access to the staff at CLL that are actually approving the project. And this is just for us to contact them for advice. So if I think that it will probably be the best for the town to work with them when we initially submit the project to make sure all the categories correct, because that's going to speed up the process in terms of the counting, reviewing it, and then releasing the money. A lot of the projects that they have two categories of how they fund the projects to the town is through reimbursement or they provide the money up front. It's a section within the document that we can select. For some of the projects, they're looking for a lot of backup information, unlike the Treasury fund. So they want to have copies of invoices. They want to see the GL reports that we use within our financial software system. For ClearGov, that was a software budget module they approved. However, they're only going to fund it on an annual basis. So we submitted everything from FY22 to FY24. They are only approving invoices paid in FY22. And then when July comes, we can submit the next bill for that particular budget software and they will reimburse us for that as well. All of the projects have to be committed by 2024. So we have a few more years and it has to be spent by 2026. So as we, move forward with projects, this is long-term. So when we start thinking about what's going to be most beneficial for the town, how can we save money, what things can we fund that aren't going to be allocated to bonding or use of taxpayers' money going up. Those are some of the projects as we start looking at our 3 to 5 year plan, even in operating and in capital, really looking at projects where we can save money over the next 2 to 3 years. And at the last meeting, as we look at the amount of funds that were allocated to the school, we had around little less than $2 million that was allocated to the school for the use of teachers. So just keeping that in mind, that as we move forward, that these are funds that aren't going to be here for a long time. And if the need is still there for special ed and special ed teachers and different nurses, then we want to think about how maybe we use some of these funds to cover some of those expenses next year. I know, Mike, you had mentioned the override in future years, but just something to think about as we move forward, looking at how to spend the balance of what's remaining in the ARPA funds.
Thank you, Karen. The floor is open for questions. Comments?
Mr. Chair, if I could ask a quick question.
Please.
Thank you. Karen, this is really an amazing piece of work that you've undertaken here. I want to just make sure that I understand this correctly. Once it's started the process with Norfolk County, you said that it usually takes a week. Is that correct?
The turnaround time is typically a week to 2 weeks is a typical turnaround time. And I've been in contact with a lady that works with CLA, a couple of representatives. And so they provided me information in terms of, because I was wondering why the projects were taking so long. If there's a question, if a project's rejected in the site, it's usually because the category has changed. And that was mainly due to the Department of Treasury's office. We have to submit a whole new application. So we can't go into an application and edit and make a change. And I think that was something we didn't know. And so if it's rejected, CLA will contact us and they'll let us know. So I spoke with one of the representatives yesterday and we walked through all of our projects and I just asked questions on, are there things here in terms of what we're submitting, in terms of backup information that you need so that we can move forward of having these approved. That's why if we have everything set up properly by category, we have the proper backup paperwork because there's we can add attachments. We're doing different infrastructure projects. We want to provide additional information. They ask for the greenhouse, I think it's the greenhouse gas. There's green emissions, gas emissions. There's a project that we have requested funds for, but they want to know the medium, what is the medium income? How many residents are in the town of Milton? What is the maximum amount of income that people are? The projects that we're doing helping the members of, residents of Milton that represent that low income and low medium income. And if it does, what information do we have? So I've been working with the town engineer just to try to get additional information that they're requesting that's different than just the categories in terms of eligible use. So those are some of the things that have come up that we've had to do research and get additional information that wasn't part of the original application.
That makes total sense, Karen. Thank you so much. And I know that the town's engineer would love to help you in any way possible for us to get some of these fundings. So she's great. So we're sitting on like 1.5, roughly from the county still.
Yes, around that. We have some that are pending. So I'm assuming we should hear from that. Those probably should be approved by next week because there were a few things that we had to change. I need to make one additional change to one of the projects. I've been in contact with Norfolk County. I know that John Cronin have reached out to Anne Marie during the week, but I feel very confident that these will move forward by next week. And as long as we have everything in place, I want to get them in and I want to get them approved. I don't want to have to wait. I mean, we already started looking at the small business grants because that's something new. There's a lot of actually other communities that are calling Milton, asking us on how we're doing the small business grants. And I'm thinking, well, this is our first time doing, but I did reach out to CLA and they did provide me with the categories and how to enter that into Norfolk County so that we can get the money to the town of Milton and then produce grants that would go to the different recipients that were requesting funds. So I feel comfortable that moving forward with the small business grants, that we have the support that we need to make sure that the projects are submitted properly.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Karen.
Oh, you're welcome.
I just had a quick question, Karen. On the projects that we have that are sent over that we're waiting for, would this use up the remainder of that 1.5 million, or are we still going to have other money left over if those all are approved?
No, all the projects that we have, if all the projects that we have are approved, we'll have $1.5 million still remaining.
No, okay.
Actually, was it 1.9? 1.9 remaining.
Okay.
One thing that, just to add to that, as we move forward with this process, and I don't know what the procedure is for Norfolk County, but if we don't need the funds, being able to repurpose those, that's a question that I have for Norfolk County. If the time comes that these funds aren't spent on the projects or completely spent on the projects that were approved, how can we repurpose those? We were able to do that with the Treasury funds. So with the Board of Health, there were requests for contact tracing assistance for different nurses. But when contact tracing ended, we had additional funds available for the Board of Health that through the select board, we were able to repurpose those and actually fund a different position. So I'm wondering what the process will be with Norfolk County if that comes up a year from now or 2 years from now, because we don't want to have, and another question I think the select board may want to think about is if we approved projects for teachers or for nurses or for clinicians, how long do we allow those funds to sit if the position is unfilled for a year or two? So as we start moving forward, if positions are unfilled and we're just not able to fill them, how long are we going to have those funds sit before we think about repurposing them or think about is the need still there? So those are the probably things that are going to come up in the future, as we look forward to, spending these funds.
Thank you.
Welcome.
I'll just add that knowing the timelines that are involved, the evaluation process, the complexities that are associated, Milton took a very, very advanced position on this, moved adroitly, and the town's representative to Norfolk County shared with us that their first award was to the town of Milton, was it not, Michael and Karen?
We were tied with Wellesley. We were there the same day. The first award last summer, we were there the same day as Wellesley. I think they gave their check to them before they gave the check to us, but it was Wellesley.
Should have jumped in front of him, Mike.
Just gonna say, you should have tripped him going up the stairs.
Thank you, everyone. Any closing remarks, Mr. Zulus?
No, I think I'm looking forward to hear if there are any residents who have input on how they think we might be able to use the funds going forward.
I don't see any there. Do you see any there, Mr. Chair?
No, I do not. No. That being the case, thank you, everyone, for presentation and questions, participation. And at this point, let us move on to agenda item number 5, discussion approval Fire Station Building Committee update. Richard is the select board representative. Would you like to introduce Brian?
I would. Mr. Walsh, Mr. Chair, how are you? I'm pleased tonight to bring before us one more time the chair of the Fire Station Building Committee, a committee that is a great deal of expertise and has worked so hard now. Is this year 5, Brian? What year is this?
It is year 5.
So with that, thank you, Mr. Chair, and Chairman Walsh is before us.
Thank you.
Welcome, Brian.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate it. And thank you to the entire board for accommodating me and for your continued support. We have exciting news tonight. I was anxious to get in here tonight and update you to be sure that we could update you before town meeting was updated. You are meeting again next week, and we may be back, and town meeting was not next week. So town meeting's a little delayed, still thrilled to update you. So as it turns out, I think, as you know, we went out to bid for we concentrated on building first, just the headquarters fire station. For 4 of those years, we've been talking about doing all 3 projects at once, but COVID had a dramatic impact. As part of a standard procedure in a project, once 75% designs are done, the architect and the OPM do a pause and they go out and and rebid the project. Well, what they learned was that if we had done all 3 stations at once, we would have dramatic overcosts. And a few of the key reasons are to do all 3 stations might take as long as 6 years. Well, a contractor bidding while we're still, in the throes of some of the COVID already knows that the cost for materials and labor has been impacted a lot. And they would have to worry about what does it mean 4 years from now, 5 years from now, and likely when they're responding to a bid, they're going to pad those bids. So we did a lot of work on this, and I know we updated the select board previously in town meeting about this. So we said, look, it's in the town's best interest. Let's concentrate on getting the headquarters done. Just bid that out, go with that. And then when that is done, and I would tell you, rough estimate starting, if we get the approval and to go ahead and discuss it's rough estimate about 2 years. 2 years from now, we're going to step back. We're going to look at take a strong look at what the marketplace is, et cetera. And we will be updating you in the town meeting as to what the next best step would be to build one station, to build the 2 remaining, and a better sense of what the cost would be. So that's just a little background. So as I said, we were going out to bid for the fire station headquarters. By the way, what we learned at that 75, what the design was 75% done, and they went out and tested the waters. We learned that if we went out there, the architect and our owner's project manager, this is Context and Vertex companies, they said that it would be a minimum of potentially 50% over budget to do all 3 at once. Well, that's a non-starter. That's why we lean towards saying, okay, well, let's look just at the headquarters. So in late February, we put out the bids. We got them back in, and we had to go through a process of pre-qualifying all of the subcontractors. These are all the trades that the general contractor will use to construct the station. And then we also pre-qualified the general contractor. The bids were received on April 15th. The FSBC, Fire Station Building Committee, met on 4/26, and your liaison was with us. And we voted unanimously to select the low bidder, G&R Construction out of Hanover, to be the contractor of Headquarters Fire Station. They have built several fire stations in the past and other public safety buildings. But interestingly, and I think extremely positive for us in the town of Milton, they were the contractor that did the the Milton Library. Recent renovation, rebuild of the Milton Library. And, I'm sure you've all had the opportunity to go through it and experience it. They did a terrific job. Most of our residents are pretty proud of how that library came out. So another point I want to share with you, both, and this is just as fake, both Vertex, our OPM, and Context, our architect, have worked with GNR in the past and have had very favorable experiences. So we're really looking at a contractor that we can be happy as we can be responding to the bid without actually starting the work. Now let's get to the brass tacks. So when we stopped and did the estimate after 75% of the design was done and estimated what we think the bids will come in at, I can tell you your entire Fire Station Building Committee was very concerned. Are the bids going to come in what we expected or anywhere near that? We have a lot of experience both here in Milton in surrounding towns in recent bids. I'm dog pound. Every time I say dog pound, my daughter just beats the
Animal shelter.
Animal shelter. The animal shelter bid, as you all know, came in way over. I'm proud to tell you right now that we at the bids that our contractor and architect expected, that we reviewed when we put this out, the bid came back in at about 3.5% over that. I have to tell you that is an astounding experience compared to most people that are going out now and bidding buildings. And when you add on to that, it's a contractor. The town, just coincidentally, you have to go with the low bidder. Qualified contractors with the low bidder. But this is a contractor that the town has had a great experience with. Our architect and our OPM have had great experience with, and built a lot of public safety buildings. So I'm thrilled to tell you that. So where are we? We have selected them. We have worked with town council on reviewing a contract that we would offer to the contractor. It's been approved by town council. We have sent a notice of award to that company. We expect within a week to have that contract back from them with a lot of details ironed out there. And I'm hoping that I'll have the opportunity to come in and speak with you folks on the 10th and give you an update, a more further update of exactly what the timing will be, right? That's what we don't know. The contractor will then say, all right, this is about when we can start. We're thinking we'll be start that project in June. We'll know a lot more details next week. So let me stop there. I know you've got a full agenda. I don't know if you had any questions. I am with our OPM here and be happy to address any questions you had now.
Muted, Arthur.
Oh, you're so lucky. Thank you, Mr. Walsh, very much. The floor is open. Questions, please. Hearing none.
I think Karen has her hand up, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Karen. Thank you, Mr.
That's gonna be a very important question if it's going to Ms.
It is.
It's nothing bad. Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you. Brian, I have to say it's great to see you in person. I haven't met you, but we are constantly emailing each other. I'm really excited to move forward with the construction of the project for the fire stations. And I just wanted to find out, well, one thing is that as we look at how we're spending the money and making sure that we have the revenue to cover it as we get close to the end of the fiscal year. If we start work in June, but we're going to bill in July, that's perfectly fine. But if we think we're going to have an invoice billed in June, it's really important that we connect with our town treasurer and issue debt. We need to issue a ban to have that revenue covered because we don't want to run into a deficit at the end of the fiscal year. So sometimes when construction projects are started in June, if the first invoice is in July, we're perfectly fine. And that falls into our bonding schedule of when we'll be bonding project probably. And I believe the treasurer is going to be going on in February, it could be in the fall. So if we can just stay connected. I know we have been corresponding emails today about that with the treasurer, but since I know now that we might start in June, if we want to hold on paying till July, because we still have 30 days in order to pay every invoice, and that would be probably better for us.
Terrific. Yeah, if I could address that, thank you, Karen. As I think everyone here knows, we have a complicated funding mechanism, which is a great funding mechanism, right? As the debt is retiring from the school project and the Milton Library, it's building up a fund that will basically pay our bills. We've had a delay in this overall project. I think Mr. Wells pointed out that we're the 5th year here. All of that delay, I think, was well-meaning. We examined, can we cover the town with 2 stations instead of 3, and we couldn't. We had to look for a new location for the East Milton site, and we're thrilled with how that worked out. But a lot of that stuff took time. We had on a member of our committee, Dan Clark, and I think Karen, you would know, Dan had a lot of expertise, especially on the financials, and was working with Karen and also our town treasurer. We have replaced him on our committee, and we have someone who is a CFO for a mid-sized company. His name is Brian Beaupre. He actually served on the Warren Committee. And I think maybe Aaron probably served with him. He is going to take over.
I did, Brian. He's a great man.
Thank you, Aaron. He's going to take over as focusing on, we're going to work closely with the town accountant. I wish it was you, Karen, all along, but I wish you the best. But we'll work closely with the town accountant and the town treasurer on a regular basis and make sure that the funding mechanism is working okay, and also issues like you're mentioning here, Karen. So the only question, I don't think there'll be any trouble delaying some June invoices into July as you mentioned, the 30 days. But the question of fiscal year, when it's for work done in one fiscal year, does that complicate it being paid in the following fiscal year?
So we do have that, rule for Mass General laws. If the services are provided through June 30th, we are allowed to pay them up until July 15th for anything from a prior year. So if the services are rendered through June 30th, June 1st, we can still make a payment by July 15th for that for the previous fiscal year. Anything after July 15th, as you know, has to go to town meeting if it's for a previous year and the bill comes in after July 15th.
Awesome. Yeah, so I think we'll be fine there. And again, we won't know until we finish signing of the contract with the contractor, exactly when we'll start. But it's not going to be in May. So I think we'll be fine.
That's great.
Yeah, and we'll continue working. The emails today, Karen, as you know, I think we're going to try in next week with you and the town treasurer and have a discussion about that.
Yes.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir, Mr. Wells.
am I correct? And maybe Anne Marie, if you can't, we have a motion on for tonight. We need a motion to approve this.
Yes, we have item number 6, an agenda item, a motion to move to accept and/or award the bid to G&R Construction for the fire station building.
So moved. That'll be my motion.
Is there a
Exactly as
second,
you just
please?
stated.
Thank you,
Second.
Mr. Wells. Second from Ms. Bradley. Any discussion? Hearing
It's gonna
none.
be big.
I'll do the roll. Mr. Zulus,
Yes.
Mr. Wells,
Yes.
Ms. Bradley,
Yes.
Ms. Musto,
Yes.
and Mr. Doyle, yes.
Smile,
Unanimous.
Brian.
Absolutely. Thank you all. Thank you. And I know the bad news is I'll probably hear and see you again next week. So you'll have to deal with me again. But anyway, all the best, and we'll absolutely keep you updated as this progresses.
Thank you, Brian, and groundbreaking.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah, thank you for that reminder. We won't know until we get the contract back from GNR when they're looking at starting everything, but we will figure out a date to have a groundbreaking ceremony. The community has waited more than 100 years for new headquarters. We don't want that to pass unnoticed. So yeah, we'll work out a groundbreaking ceremony, and absolutely the select board will be on the invitation list. We hope to see you there.
Thank you, Brian, and well done to you and all your committee members. Please extend our appreciation to them.
Will do. Thank you.
You're welcome to stay as long as you'd like. I know you don't have anything else to do, so.
I'm in our OPM's office. I think I'll close up shop and head home.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan. Item number 6 on our agenda, discussion approval of select board members, committee appointments and reappointments. Just to note 2 things, if I may. On the list that we have, I had originally, the housing committee was on that, and the housing committee was disbanded. It had completed its work, particularly with the existence of the Community Preservation Committee coming on stream. So housing will be part of that agenda, and the Affordable Housing Trust. So the floor is open to discussion. Be very interested in hearing what preferences might be. Ms. Bradley?
Mr. Chair, thanks for recognizing me. I emailed with Lynn earlier today. There's some committees that are missing from this list.
Thank you.
So I just want to acknowledge that and ask that maybe for the next meeting, which I believe is May 11th, that we put those additional committees on that. One of them is the school building committee, which is not shown here. And so I know Vice Chair Zulus and I can fight it out, but that would definitely be one that I'm interested in. So so if we could just make sure that we have all the committees that would need to be reappointed, that would be great.
Thank you for picking up on that. You're absolutely correct. And we did discover that. I am at fault for not mentioning it when I mentioned the one that was disbanded. And we will have some other appointments for next week as well. In fact, we'll probably have an extended discussion next week, which will have a very busy agenda the way it's evolving at the present time. But some of the discussion will be on the possibility of some additional committees within the select board. Any other comments or questions, or are there any volunteers for any of the positions that have been vacated? Or if you wish to serve on a particular committee, Mr. Zulus.
Mr. Chair, I'm not sure I'm prepared to go through with all of the committees tonight, but I do know that the Finance Committee does have a meeting on Friday to discuss the small business applications for ARPA. And those are time sensitive because we want to try to get them in as quickly as possible. So what I'd suggest, since you and I have been shepherding that maybe one thing we could do is have an interim Finance Committee, just maybe for the next 2 weeks or until the 11th. So we could continue that work so we don't miss a beat. And then, you know, whoever wants to do it, we can obviously figure that out then. But I just, I hope we can not miss a beat with those small business applications. So that's my only.
Important. What would you think of going through town meeting on your recommendation?
I think that's fine. If everyone else is comfortable with that, I'm fine with it.
Okay. So do you want to make a motion accordingly?
So I will make a motion to appoint myself and Mr. Doyle as interim members of the Finance Committee through town meeting.
Is there a second, please?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Wells. Any discussion? All in favor? Mr. Zulus?
Yes.
Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Ms. Bradley?
Yes.
Ms. Musto?
Yes.
And myself, yes. Thank you.
Mm.
Any other comments, questions, volunteers at this time, Ms. Musto?
I have a question. So I noticed on the list that we received, sometimes it'll say one member, sometimes it has 2 members from the board. So I'm just wanted to understand, some committees only allow 1 and some have 2, and is that for representatives from the board? Is that how that is, or?
That is correct. And for example, if you take the Master Plan Implementation Committee, it has 5 members at present, but there is 1 representative from the select board.
Okay.
At town meeting, there's an article that will ask, and those of you who are on the warrant committee are for an increase from 5 to 7 members, but there will still only be 1 representative from the select board.
Okay. Yeah, I would say I'm with Aaron on this one. It would be nice to have the full list before we can really sort of decide, you know, which ones we'd be interested in.
Would you prefer to defer this to the May 11 meeting?
I would.
Okay.
Can I ask a question before we do
Certainly.
that, Mr. Chair? Is it possible, can you let me know what the tradition is around folks that currently have committees and whether or not they continue on? So like, for example, I wouldn't want to be on the fire building committee because Mr. Wells has been the one shepherding that through. So like, is there a protocol? Is there a way that we do this so that we're not, besides me and Mike, fighting out the school building committee?
You're happy to fight with me, but you're not going to fight with Richard. That's interesting.
Richard's taller.
There's nothing cast in concrete, but there is good judgment. For example, as you cite, Mr. Wells says 5 years of history. May seem like 50 years to him, but 5 years of history working with the fire building committee. So it would not make sense
Right.
if he's willing to continue, to not have him continue.
Is it possible for us to find out what the current committee members are not wanting to continue on? Because I don't want to step on toes, honestly. But I also don't know that just picking up what the former members, Conlon and why am I blanking on Melinda's last name?
Oh, no.
Well, I don't think it's right that Roxanne and I just pick up what they are leaving, what they have left. So I'm
I
just
think
curious.
that's
about
fair,
how
and it's not an assumption that you would. This is
Okay.
tabula rasa. It is wide open. Nobody's feelings are going to be hurt. It's fair
Okay.
game.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just didn't want to, given the town, I just don't want to step on anything. So thank you.
Interest, strengths, and experience are very important.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Wells,
So for Lynn, there is one committee not listed there, and that is Milton Cable, what do we call it? MPEG, which I currently sit on, and I believe I assumed that role in the middle of Mr. Burns's term when he stepped down. Doesn't get brought up much, but that is a one-member assignment. We do, the select board has one member on MPEG.
so Marie, can you add that to the wish list, please? Thank you, Mr. Wells. Any other further discussion or comment? If not, do we have a consensus to defer to the May 11 meeting?
I'm fine with that. I think it's fair to the new members to let them.
I do too.
I think it's fair.
Thank you. Excellent. Moving forward with our agenda. And by the way, don't hesitate to share before May 11 some of your interests, or to ask questions if you have about anybody's experience with any of the committees. Everybody will be very open, very helpful, and very cooperative in that respect. Agenda item number 8 has been moved and approved. We now have several approvals ahead of us for one-day liquor licenses. You have the attachments for all of those in your materials for tonight. And we have a series of motions to act on them, starting
Mr.
with
Chair,
agenda
I'm ready to start. So I'm going to make a motion first to approve the liquor license to Tap Beer Trucks LLC on May 20th, 2022 for Senior Week event at Curry College.
Thank you, Mr.
Second.
Wells. Is there a second? Ms.
Second.
Bradley, thank you. Any questions or comment? I'll take the roll. Mr. Zulus.
Yes.
Mr. Wells.
Yes.
Ms. Bradley.
Yes.
Ms. Musto.
Yes.
And myself, yes.
Next item, Mr. Chair, I'll make a move to approve a one-day liquor license Eustace Estate, Historic New England on May 20th, 2022 for a reception titled Music of the Gilded Age at Eustace Estate.
Thank you, Mr. Wells. Is there a second, please?
I'll second.
Thank you, Roxanne. Any comment? Hearing none. Mr. Zulus.
Yes.
Mr. Wells.
Yes.
Ms. Bradley.
Yes.
Ms. Musto.
Yes.
And myself, yes. The next motion is for,
I'll make a motion to
Wakefield.
move to approve a one-day liquor license Eustace Estate, Historic New England on June 9, 2022 for an opening reception at the Painted Circus at Eustace Estate.
So moved.
second.
Second, sorry. I'm so used to doing that at the Warren Committee. I'm sorry, Mr. Chair.
What? It's been a long day, Aaron. That's all right. We've all been there. Okay, no, hearing no discussion. Mr. Zulus,
Yes.
Mr. Wells,
Yes.
Ms. Bradley.
Yes.
You want to say it a second time? Ms. Musto
Yes.
and myself, yes. The next motion, please.
Mr. Chairman, move to approve a one-day liquor license. Mary May Binney, I almost said Arboretum, Wakefield Arboretum on June 15, 2022 for wine and cheese Dogwood Trees Garden Tour.
Thank you, Mr. Wells. A second, please.
I'll second.
Thank you, Roxanne. Any comment? Hearing none. Mr. Zulus,
Yes.
Mr. Wells,
Yes.
Ms. Bradley,
Yes.
Ms. Musto,
Yes.
and myself, yes. Thank you. Next motion.
Mr. Chair, move to approve a one-day liquor license, Mary Binney Wakefield Arboretum on June 18, 2022 for the annual fundraiser, Dogwood Days. Beer garden. I already did that one, right? Didn't I do that already? Did I do
Different
that?
date, is it not?
Yeah, you did the
Yeah,
dog with
that's not-
trees,
all right,
wine,
I
and
went to
cheese.
Dog Days Beer Garden. I did the wine
Yeah.
and cheese one.
I think you might have missed one of them, but
Did I?
the cheese social, but
All right,
we'll go
let's
back
do
to
this.
that.
The cheese social.
Yeah, we'll go back to that.
All right, we'll do this one first. Is there a second to Mr. Wells' motion?
I'll second.
Thank you, Roxanne. Comment? Hearing none. Mr. Zulus,
Yes.
Mr. Wells,
Yes.
Ms. Bradley,
Yes.
Mr. Musto,
Yes.
and Mr. Doyle, yes. Let's go back to the one that was missed.
Mr. Chair, same location, date for the same location, Arboretum, on June 17th for members soiree fundraiser wine and cheese social. I'm going to
Second.
that one.
I'm going to that one. I second that.
All right. Comment? Hearing
You might
none.
have to post.
Mr. Zulus,
Yes.
Mr. Wells,
Yes.
Ms. Bradley,
Yes.
Ms. Musto,
Yes.
Mr. Doyle, yes. Okay, my computer's not,
15, Mr. Chair, future meeting dates and agenda items.
we have, do we not? The Boy Scout congratulatory.
Yeah, so I have
letters?
that. We do have the approval of congratulatory letters to
As well as,
newly named Milton Eagle Scouts, Camden Leverall, Patrick Fox, Jordan Brown, and Sebastian Wright.
is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Ms. Musto. Comment? Hearing none. The
And I
roll.
will, Matt, just a moment, Mr. Chair, only because I was privileged to attend this Court of Honor. It was held at Base Camp New England, also known to many of us in Milton as Camp Saya. These four Milton students, I think they're all seniors. Each one of them did a service project related to the town. Two of them did service projects at Milton Cemetery, one at Glover School and one at the Tucker School. And as you know, you yourself, Mr. Chair, you've attended these in the past. Milton has a long history of Eagle Scouts, particularly coming for Troops 3 and Troop 5. And this is a significant thing for all four of these young men. Two of them, which I happen to know personally, and I was very happy to see this happen. And it was very nice to see Mrs. Marita Cronin, who was, you know, Mr. Chair. John was probably no bigger advocate for scouting in this town in the past 75 years than Mr. Cronin was. It was very nice to see Marita, who was also the mother of 3 Eagle Scouts herself, to be present.
Thank you, Mr. Wells. Most appreciated. So there was a second. No further comment. The roll, Mr. Zulus,
Yes.
Mr. Wells,
Yes.
Ms. Bradley,
Yes.
Ms. Musto,
Yes.
Mr. Doyle, yes. And now that my laptop is functioning properly, let's go up to item number 15 on future meeting dates and review those. We have, as mentioned beforehand, May 11 at 7 o'clock. I'd like to ask the select board their preference on meeting by Zoom or in person. And we can also discuss location, but let's take the first one first. Any thoughts on meeting Mr. Zulus?
I prefer in person. But, you know, obviously whatever people are comfortable with, but I think it's a better meeting in person, but that's my view.
Mr.
Yeah.
Wells?
So as I noted last week, I will be out of state for this. So I agree with Mr. Zulus. I think as much as we can get in person, we should, depending on what, how many important items are on the agenda. If I would have participated, I'd do it by phone and in the town, and we've done that in the past anyway. And Lynn and the town administrator know how to make that happen. So I'd be fine with that.
We will have a media agenda. And by the way, I want to make sure that everybody understands invitation always is there to suggest items for the agenda. And then it is floated in draft form before finalization. So can we have a consensus as to preference for meeting by Zoom or in person? Ms. Bradley?
If it's easier for Mr. Wells to be there via Zoom, we can do it via Zoom. I mean, I don't,
No,
it doesn't,
I do it
it
by
doesn't
phone,
matter.
Erin.
Do it
I
by
wouldn't do
phone?
it- Yeah, I do it by phone, yeah. So that
Okay.
way. it makes it easier
Whatever,
for you.
I'm flexible for that date, so it's fine with me to meet in person.
As am I. Roxanne, would you like to be the tiebreaker?
I can go either way. So if the majority wanna do it in person, it sounds like it, that's fine with me.
That's great.
Yes.
Let's plan on that then. Thank you all. And we'll make sure we have all the accommodations for Richard, so he has full participation. That meeting is then followed by our meetings that will be held an hour before the town meeting. So at 6:30 on the evenings of the 16th, 18th, 23rd, 24th, and hopefully not the 25th. Anne Marie, you'll be letting us know the room where
Yes.
we will be meeting
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
beforehand. And then after that, we have meetings scheduled for June 8 and June 22, also at 7. And may I presume that we will continue meeting in person unless we know that we should or have to do otherwise. That reasonable for everybody? I see a lot of heads nodding
Yes.
in the affirmative,
That's
so
great, Mr. Chair.
so be it. Thank you.
Anne Marie? Oh, sorry. Lynn
Go
has her
ahead,
hand up,
go
Mr.
ahead,
Chair.
Mr. Wells.
Lynn also has her hand up. Let her go first.
Quick
Are you good?
question.
Okay.
Would you
go ahead.
prefer the blue room or the council on aging?
Probably the COA. That's where we're gonna go back anyway. And we're gonna go back there anyway, Anne Marie? I mean,
Mhm. Yes.
that's our home base.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Agreed.
Is there a reason why we're not going on Tuesday on the week of the 17th? Is this on the week of going Monday, Wednesday?
There-
Instead
there
of like,
was-
Milton High School has an event, Mr. Wells, on
Okay,
Tuesday, the
okay.
17th.
thank you. You're flying right along in your first meeting here, Mr. Chair.
Well, Richard, I have a ringmaster that I have to be cognizant of. You did a great job on all of those motions, Richard.
So for Ms. Bradley and Ms. Muspa, usually we get to those around 10:30 at night. It's when 10 o'clock is when those appointments. So I don't even know how it started a long time ago. I just start banging them out as fast as I can get them.
Just to let you know, my training in meetings is brevity first, levity, clarity, and charity. So I will do my best with all of those, beginning with brevity. We have a motion before us to next enter into executive session to discuss strategy with respect to collective bargaining or litigation if an open meeting may have a detrimental effect on the bargaining or litigating position of the public body and the chair so declares. And I would accept a motion to do so with the notation that we will adjourn from executive session. Would that be acceptable?
Michael, doesn't the chair have to make that motion to go into executive session?
I did.
Oh, you do? That was a motion. Oh, second. Oh, okay, I'm good. I'll second that, Mr. Chair.
Okay. You're welcome. I'll try to be a little bit more explicit.
No, I get it. I apologize.
So we have a motion seconded. Mr. Zulus,
Yes.
Mr. Wells,
Yes.
Ms. Bradley,
Yes.
Ms. Musto,
Yes.
and Mr. Doyle, yes. Okay, thank you very much. Sean, will you